What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on Nootropics. Hope you guys liked the intro. That was in response to a couple people complaining about the loudness and the gnarliness of our previous intro. So for now, maybe we'll just stick to this for you guys. Going to talk about modafinil, practical steps on layering other nootropic chemicals on top of modafinil. There is a framework you should use, and I'm going to break it down for you. In the meantime, what supports this broadcast, a couple epic nootropic products. Number one, the Cortex Nootropic Stack. Look, if you just want a powerful pre-made stack, take 2 capsules and you're in on motivation, mental energy, verbal fluency, drive to do work, get Cortex. Do that at livecortex.com. Best way to purchase it once you realize you love the stack is to do auto ship. It saves you money per month, and it gets you Cortex shipped automatically to your doorstep every 30 days. Do that at livecortex.com on the Cortex buy page. If you're new to nootropics, I created a course for you. It's called Nootropics Ground Zero. It lays out the groundwork, the framework, gives you stacks, shows you how to use nootropics properly, save you a lot of time and money and years. If you are in a couple years but really want to ascend to the 6-year plus mark that's defined as the master class of using nootropics, get the Nootropics Master Class. That's also a video course. If you're a guy that has to race test, Viking Testosterone Protocol upgraded. Get that protocol, get that service, and we will start. And then lastly, if you're a business person that needs one-on-one help with improving mental performance so that what you're working on, you can double or triple your productivity, work with me on a 3.5 month or a 6-month basis. I mean, I usually get the call from big entrepreneurs or executives or business people that either lost their flame and aren't performing like they used to, or they just have a heavy workload and need to be doubling or tripling their productivity and want to feel awesome. I mean, look, if you want to feel incredible and be functioning at high capacity at an elite level pretty consistently, we can make that happen. 3.5 months or 6 months, do that stuff at livecortex.com. I apologize for what sounds like construction somewhere near the office here. I guess somebody's outside doing some sort of construction, if you can hear it. Stacking things with modafinil. Okay, so I'm going to break down the steps for you, and I'll get right into it. Step number one, if you're going to layer things on top of modafinil, is to first find your great baseline modafinil dose, okay? Your baseline modafinil dose is defined as the dose of modafinil that you can take exclusively, no other nootropics, and get a good effect. The way you would do that is you'd first have to start low, 50 milligrams or so, work your way up to your highest tolerable dose, meaning the dose at which if you go a little higher, you get side effects. And then identify within that scope, within that dose range of experiments, which dose kind of got you the best effects with no side effects, like not even disrupting sleep, because modafinil has a potent ability to do that, and it just by itself is enough for you. My highest tolerable dose on modafinil is actually much higher than my great baseline dose. And that could be the case for you, or it could be different for you. My highest tolerable dose is 200 milligrams of modafinil. Anything above that, and I definitely lose sleep, and sometimes it's harder for me to focus. But my great baseline modafinil dose is 100 milligrams. It's 100 milligrams, okay. So identifying that, then taking that. Step two is once you find that dose, you generally want to take the dose down if you're going to be layering other nootropics on top of modafinil, 25 to 50 milligrams. 25 to 50 milligrams. So that would take me down to 75 milligrams. So and let's call that your ideal stackable modafinil dose. Okay? My ideal stackable modafinil dose is 75 milligrams even, period. Once you find your ideal stackable modafinil dose, and I'm going to get into sort of why you should be dosing it slightly lower and why you should identify this ideal stackable dose. I mean, look, you're layering on, in most cases, cholinergics. That's the best thing to stack with modafinil on top of it. And so the chance of overstimulation and putting the brain in the place where there's excessive neurotransmitter release and then downstream neurotransmitter releasable pool deficiency or depletion for a temporary period increases the higher the dose of modafinil that you take. So keeping it relatively modest is a good idea. Okay, so next step, layering. Thought has to go into this, because now you're just layering on top of the effects of modafinil, which are like motivation, mental energy, wakefulness, and alertness, trying to achieve the brain performance that is lacking in that group of effects that modafinil gives you. Typically, that would be verbal fluency and working memory and general central processing. Like if those of you that experiment with racetams like piracetam or aniracetam or oxiracetam, you know that it enhances the way that you process information different than the way that modafinil affects your brain. So I usually layer racetams or cholinergics in general on top of modafinil. Okay, so therefore you'd want to bring cholinergics in. Let's just stick with cholinergics for the moment. Here's how you would do that. Let's take Noopept, for example, okay? You take your ideal stackable dose of modafinil, which again, mine is 75 milligrams, and layer on top of that a medium dose of the cholinergic that you're bringing in. Medium dose of Noopept is probably between 5 and 8 milligrams. Mine is 7. Literally, I've identified it as 7 milligrams of Noopept on top of 75 milligrams of modafinil is my best dose. Again, you'll have to adjust and play with doses and experiment to find what your medium dose for Noopept is, because some people take 20 milligrams of Noopept and that's what they require to get great effects from it. It doesn't give them side effects, so their medium dose would be 10 milligrams, basically cutting it sort of in half. Whereas mine is typically the regular baseline great Noopept dose is like 13, 14 milligrams, so that's why I'm taking it down to 7. So my modafinil Noopept stack would be 75 milligrams modafinil, 7 milligrams Noopept, and then 200 milligrams choline bitartrate. I do need a little choline when I take Noopept, and choline bitartrate at that dose seems to work. Oxiracetam, so moving on to a different nootropic. Again, really using the same principle of kind of medium dosing the additive or the synergistic additional component that you're putting on top of modafinil. I take 500 milligrams of oxiracetam with 75 milligrams of modafinil. Usually, again, 200 or so milligrams of choline bitartrate. And I would suggest you do the same thing on the oxiracetam side. Medium dose it. You're going to see if you fully dose these compounds together that you're just not going to get, in most cases, because some people will, the synergistic, really, really cool side effectless effect of layering things on top of modafinil. Aniracetam would be the same for me. 500 milligrams aniracetam with 75 of modafinil and 200 milligrams of choline bitartrate. Getting a little trickier though, just to give you guys a little more options. Let me scroll down my notes here. Something weird is going on with my laptop. Layering Alcar, which is a good idea if you can make it work on top of modafinil, okay? It'll give you some cholinergic effects, but also give you some more energy effects, which is why you have to approach it a little carefully and maybe add some other calming nootropic compounds into the mix that are working on GABA serotonin. So here's what you do. You'd want a modest dose of Alcar on top of your ideal stackable dose of modafinil. Mine is 200 to 300 milligrams, and I would wager, based both on sort of trials, if you will, that I have with clients and then also with myself, but also understanding sort of nootropic stacking principle. Most people are going to respond best to that dose range, 200 to 300, perhaps up to 500, but I really wouldn't go any further than that on the Alcar. With the additional go-to though, meaning like just additional possibility if you need to, of having like 100 to 300 milligrams of theanine in the mix to balance it out. Because very often when I pair modafinil with Alcar, because it's also enhancing mitochondrial energy function in brain cells, yeah, look, it could cross that barrier. Even though I'm dosing my ideal stackable dose of modafinil and a lower dose of Alcar, it can cross that barrier of a bit too much overstimulation. Modafinil traditionally does not give you the sort of stimulant effect, that kind of weird, awkward feeling, that's too stimulated effect. But bringing Alcar in the mix can push you a little bit in that direction. So having a go-to of either theanine or ashwagandha or kind of like the calming nootropic of your choice is a good idea. And in this case, it's 75 milligrams of modafinil for me, 300 milligrams of Alcar, and then 200 milligrams of L-theanine. That stack is like amazing. 6-7 hours of work. I feel great the entire time. I basically get 3 or 4 times the amount done that I typically do on a baseline day when I haven't taken any nootropics. And that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So that's basically it. Look, there's an intelligent way to stack every nootropic on top of other nootropics, but when you're layering things on top of modafinil, you want to find an ideal stackable dose. The dose at which when you bring other things in to layer onto it, it isn't going to be too much to cause side effects, or it's going to work synergistically together. It's very important that you identify that number for you. And then again, when you're layering in cholinergics, Noopept, oxiracetam, aniracetam, even Alcar on top of that, on top of your modafinil dose, medium dose them. And when you get into the really stimulating stuff, like if you just happen to be bringing in teacrine as an example, or dynamine, which you got to be really careful with, have theanine or an otherwise GABA enhancing or serotonergically enhancing nootropic compound in the mix to balance out the potential for extra stimulation. And that's something you're going to have to play with, okay? Modafinil, look, it's an incredibly potent, very, very useful tool in the arsenal, particularly for productive people and business folks. I mean, I've used modafinil on and off for 11 years or something. You know, I probably take it 5-6 times a month. It's really on those hardcore, intense days where I just know there's a workload and I'm not particularly interested in executing the workload, or I could be more interested in executing the workload. I mean, once you get in the state where modafinil and then you've layered some other things on top of it is affecting you extremely well, there's really nothing you can't do. And some of your most importantly ball moving work you can get done with the brain chemistry that stacks like this set up. So hope that makes sense. Thank you so much for watching. Guys, remember, Cortex Stack, livecortex.com. Cortex by itself is comparable to modafinil in a lot of people's opinion. Go get a bottle, livecortex.com. We just got a bunch of new inventory in. If you want to save some money and you love the stack, just do auto ship. It takes about a minute to sign up for it on the Cortex buy page at livecortex.com. God, there's a guy weed whacking outside. Pain in the butt. Do that at livecortex.com, auto ship. Automatically have Cortex shipped to your doorstep. Nootropics Ground Zero if you're new. Got to get that video course if you're brand new. It'll save you a lot of time and money. Nootropics Masterclass if you want to ascend to the 6-year mark. Viking Testosterone Protocol for men that want to raise test. Not only will you live longer, clinically proven, to when you have high testosterone, but there's a lot of mental functionality aspects of having high test that are beneficial to men, especially in terms of productivity, but also there's like other things that are, you know, yeah, maybe a little anecdotal, but it just seems to be the case across the board that guys with high test have more confidence. They're generally more motivated. They wake up and spring out of bed and target what they want to target. Their relationship with their woman is better. Having high test is just sort of a natural, better interaction with your woman. You're just more of a man, and it feels good. Anyway, vtplivecortex.com. If you want to feel awesome and get a lot done, and have somebody that, you know, for now going on 14 years has been working on the neuroscience of putting together perfected nootropic chemicals to make really, really synergistic stacks, either work with me for 3.5 months or 6 months. Those are the options available now. The 1 month is fully booked to achieve that. Interestingly, in those consults, people usually have other things that are preventing their energy at baseline from being awesome. So we work on them too. Hormonal function, general baseline energy function, and then on top of that, layering on some of the most sophisticated chemicals and nootropics on the planet with the most sophisticated methodology to make them really function well, to turn you into a productivity beast. Work with me, livecortex.com. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Talk to you next time.